Who gon' take it there? 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 Electricity, 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 electricity. You know what's in the air. 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 It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility.
All right, so Emma Vigeland did another appearance on Abby Phillip's show. As I've mentioned, her and Sam have been going on these shows more often, which is just kind of interesting to see. It shows a little bit of a change in tone at some of those networks, even though they are still employing Republicans and trotting out corporate Democrat talking points consistently. They're also feeling a little bit more incentivized to platform people from like the Majority Report and other more left-leaning voices, as well as those voices like Sam and Emma feeling incentivized to go on those programs to try to reach some people, to maybe try to shift some of the electoral dynamics in this time leading up to the midterms, get some stuff out there that these more mainstream news audiences might not always hear. I'm conflicted about these shows. Ultimately, I do think it's good to get on a certain TV audience. I think that it's a little bit too entertainment focused for me. They're kind of jockeying off of the Fox News format that was pretty successful, the 5 or whatever, and they're doing their own version of that on CNN, which I guess has also been successful, mainly just as it's really just about who you platform and who you don't. I think it's kind of a cop-out to do this like equal from both sides, because you're never getting an equal balance from both sides. Even on the CNN panel, you have people like pretty far to the right, and then Emma Vigeland is the furthest to the left, which is like pretty moderate democratic socialist type stuff. Not a lot of real radicalism there. Whereas, you know, on the right, the Overton window just keeps going further and further. So I don't know. It's hard to know how to combat that. And that's, I guess, what I really want to get into here. But I'm going to keep it light on this one. It's the last day of the year. I'm also pretty tired. So I've got some longer clips here of Emma Vigeland's appearance on this show. So we'll get into what she did right here, a couple stumbles a little bit, and we'll just close out the year on a chill note like that.
Well, I mean, it seems like the Trump administration is banking that nothing's going to happen, that nobody is going to respond. Maduro's not going to respond. Maduro's not going to want to provoke a direct conflict. But I wonder, do the American people, do they need some kind of explanation from this president?
I would hope so. I mean, when you look at the polling on this front, over 70% of Americans do not want a war with Venezuela, so it's deeply unpopular. Secondly, when you talk about the lack of legal authority here, Congress has the authority to declare war. That is what the founders wrote in the Constitution. Now, we broaden that authority with the authorizations for the use of military force after 9/11, but those are supposed to be pertaining to the response to 9/11 and to the Iraq War. They have not even provided an explanation, as you say, as to what authority they're even using, which makes it expressly illegal on its face. And so the consequences that you're talking about are incredibly dire. But I also just want to step back for a second and look at the justifications that they're even using. They're saying that these are narco-terrorists, etc. And that's the Republican line. But then Trump comes out and goes, it's for the oil. I mean, like when we did our illegal invasion of Iraq and killed hundreds of thousands of people there, at least the Bush administration had like the humility to pretend and go to the United Nations and say, oh, we're going to do this through the regular channels. I mean, this brazen bully illegal administration doesn't even go through that pretense. And I think that should scare everybody, because their foreign policy is might makes right. And that's all that matters.
So I'm not scared. I don't think any American is scared about the consequences of this.
I care about the world, not just Americans.
No, I know, but you're also, in this instance, caring about a narco-terrorist group and government that supports them. There's been no evidence showing that they're not actually drug boats that are being sent here.
That's not how this works.
We do know, as a matter of fact, that this is a country that very clearly does engage in narco-terrorism and is a hub for sending to this country cocaine primarily, meth, which is the second leading cause of drug overdose deaths, at least where I'm from. So the average person, yeah, if you have a deep dive conversation about the legal aspects here, they're going to roll their eyes. That's just the reality. It might be important, and it is important.
But
they roll their eyes because they know who the target is.
The Sacklers are...
Donald Trump is putting you in a position
I'm sorry.
where you are now defending drug dealers. Whether or not that's your intent, that's how it comes off.
Do you think that the Sacklers should be executed in the town square?
I don't think this is the town square, and I don't think that this is a declaration
What
of
does it
war.
matter? I mean,
as we've heard,
did the Sacklers help kill Americans with the opioid epidemic? Yes or no?
so that is a completely separate issue. But
How is it separate? Should they be executed in the town square without any legal process? And that's what you're saying.
Who's next on the drug cartel here?
I don't know why that's
international.
But again, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like you guys are acknowledging this isn't really about the drugs. It's about
It is about the drugs.
Then why did Trump say it's about the oil? I mean,
and about Maduro and about regime change.
I have the quote down.
And
We
why
want
did he
it
let
back
another drug dealer go?
on the oil.
I mean,
why would he say that then?
They clearly believe. First of all, we don't even recognize Maduro as a legitimate government.
Scott, why would he say it's about the oil?
Because we believe they have illegally engaged in trafficking oil around the hemisphere that's under sanction or whatever. Again,
national security.
The overarching
not have
strategy is
jurisdiction.
we are the overriding authority in the Western Hemisphere. That is our view. It's about drugs. Maybe it's about oil that's under sanction. Maybe it's about the fact there's an illegitimate thug in charge of a country, and we don't want him in charge of it. It can be all of those things. But the reality is, we're the big player in the hemisphere, and we're not going to let these people do
So
whatever
might
they
make
want.
Let's
right,
hit
so
pause,
that's what I
guys,
said.
because we have a lot.
All right,
a
so
little
this
bit
first
more.
clip is them talking about the Venezuelan strikes that Trump has been doing. Now, there was some breaking news on this program that Trump and his CIA did a drone strike in Venezuela. That doesn't even make sense to me that the CIA is carrying out drone strikes, but I guess we all already knew that. So immediately, Scott Jennings and this other clown, this other right-wing guy who's sitting next to Emma Vigeland, immediately launch into defending Trump's absolute ability to do this. And I think that's the problem with this type of program to me, because no matter what Emma says, no matter what the counterpoint to that is, there's no really countering the fact that what Trump is doing in Venezuela, what America has been doing in Gaza through Israel, and numerous other conflicts going all the way back to the Iraq War and before, is with the full consent of this media apparatus that's presenting us this show. And so that is why there's a Scott Jennings and whoever this other guy is defending this. Whereas, like, it doesn't have to be that way. It shouldn't have to be that way. And we shouldn't have to accept that as the populace of America, that immediately the first thing that we are going to see when news breaks of strikes like this, illegal strikes, is stooges on the news defending it. That's not what the news is for. I get that there's a certain perspective for it. If the conservative warmongering perspective needs a little bit of platforming in the name of free and fair debate, fine. But the reality is that perspective is favored over and over again when these things come up. And this is CNN. This is supposed to be the counterpoint to what Trump is doing, and it's difficult for anyone else to even get a word in over these two right-wing guys talking about how Trump has the absolute authority to do this and America's going to be the police of the Western Hemisphere. When did anybody sign up for that? When did any Trump voter sign up for that? And the fact that these guys go on this show and they say, this is how the American people feel. Your average person is not going to have any issue. They're going to roll their eyes if you talk to them about the details of whether it's legal for the president to kill whoever he wants. That's not true. Even the base that elected Trump does not like this type of shit, doesn't want to go to war with Venezuela, and is very sensitive to the idea of the government just going to war, doing strikes like this, without feeling the need to tell the American people what it's about. That is something that Americans on both sides of the aisle are not that into, and is actually a huge, major motivating force in both of the elections that Donald Trump won, is this idea that he's not going to be a warmonger. Now, obviously, anybody who fell for that is a dupe, and that is only proven by these guys going out on CNN or Fox News or wherever they go and trotting out this talking point. This is their job. They were always going to do this. They knew when Donald Trump was running for office that he would give them opportunity to do this, go out and defend endless warmongering and policing of the world, exactly what Donald Trump ran against. This is just what the Republican Party is. Really, this is what the political apparatus of America is, which goes back to my point about CNN platform. That's why they're there, is that so that when something like this happens, they can be the first to come out and justify it. That's what Fox News is supposed to be there for. The fact that that's also happening on CNN just shows not only this creep towards authoritarian fascism, which goes much further back than Trump if you really trace this warmongering stuff, but also it shows how hollow the entire project of opposition to this right-wing warmongering is. There's barely any voices in media who are actually opposed to this. So kudos to Emma. I think she approached this in pretty much the right way. And the other guy opposite Emma on the panel, I don't think I showed it in the clip, but he also did call it out as a colonial mindset, this idea of policing the Western Hemisphere and going back to an Iraq war perspective. So I appreciated that. He is a little bit more of an establishment type. He said he had worked with Kamala Harris or something like that. So it was good that there was a little bit of that voice, but those voices just seem comparatively weak to the warmongering that you're hearing on this program. And so it just doesn't really seem very much like a CNN panel to me. But that's ultimately what this stuff comes down to, is that the right-wing voices are the loudest. They're not there to debate. They're not there to exchange ideas. They're there to pretend to. But they already know what they're going to say, and it does not matter what you say. They're not going to budge. And so that's where I feel like Emma makes a couple stumbles here by throwing the ball in their court a little bit too much. Because the reality is, if you're going to do a show like this, you have to take the spotlight, use the opportunity to say whatever you're going to say, and then it doesn't matter what they say. And so, yes, there has to be a little bit of combativeness. I'm not saying it was altogether a bad strategy the way she went about it. I thought this thing about this, should the Sacklers be executed in the public square? That's a genuinely good thing to say, I think, because it's a little shocking. So it moves the conversation forward. But again, putting the ball in his court kind of allowed for that talking point to be deflated a little bit. And if you watch the way these guys approach it, they more so just assert a certain worldview and leave it out there and never back off of it. That's the right-wing approach, and that has worked. That has worked to normalize this warmongering, to normalize the cruelty towards immigrants. I mean, you name it. Every talking point that you would hear trotted out on Fox News is something that they've just been steadily chipping away at for years, and creating this comfort zone for themselves to just keep saying it. That's why it's not really that productive to have that type of voice on a panel where you're trying to have like a real productive debate. But that's just what American media is at this point. So anyway, here's the last clip of Emma. They get into a little bit about Ukraine as well as taxing the rich here. And so I think Emma makes some good points, but also, again, makes the mistake of basically allowing her interlocutors to have too much time on the mic. So here's that.
Yes, and I do think that the kind of elephant in the room here is the United States completely losing, and the Biden administration is immensely complicit in this as well. Moral standing throughout the world due to our complicity in the genocide in Gaza, which has made it very difficult for us to speak to Ukrainian sovereignty and having a bully like the Russian government invading their sovereign territory. We had a doctor on our show who spoke about how the death toll is in the hundreds of thousands at this point, because the numbers that are currently being reported are only the numbers of the death toll of people who have been counted in the hospital. There are hundreds of thousands of people presumed dead, suffocating to death, crushed to death under rubble because of United States bombs. And that's across this administration and Trump here, who did get this ceasefire that he touts all the time in October. But when you look at the actual numbers here, Israel has violated it hundreds of times since that period, multiple times a day, killed at least 400 Palestinians during that period. And this will go down as one of the worst crimes in the history of humanity that our government, the Biden administration, and the Trump administration are complicit in.
Does it go down? We have to debate this.
Yeah, we don't have time. We actually don't.
Oh, we don't have time for the anti-Israel propaganda.
We don't have
We have time for the anti-Israel propaganda.
We don't have time to debate it.
Could you say Hamas was wrong at any point during this conversation?
That's fine.
Listen, we know that there's plenty
that.
We know there's plenty of disagreement on that issue.
I never said that.
Well, we let it on spool for 2 minutes, but sure. I mean, honestly.
Okay, have a quick word.
Well, I don't understand. Israel's our ally. Not a single word in your speech for the atrocities that were committed on October the 7th.
We should
not
cut
a single
off arms
word,
tomorrow.
Not a single word for the idea that Israel has every right to defend itself. Not a single word for the fact that Hamas right now is killing people inside of God, their own people. You
What do
seem
you
to lay
say
it
to-
all at the feet of Israel,
Israeli
a democratic
human rights
ally
group.
in your own
Excuse me.
country, and you have no
Excuse me.
negative
Excuse
word
me.
for the
Excuse me.
terrorists who raped
All right,
and
all right,
murdered
all right.
and kidnapped.
Excuse me.
Zero.
B'Tselem,
None.
Israeli human rights group, says
None.
they're
And
committing
you still
genocide.
don't.
Guys.
You still don't.
We gotta go. Rita Ninen, thank you very much.
Governments redistribute resources. That's what we do, and we make these choices.
And the billionaires pay
percentages-
a huge portion already.
Oh,
of-
really?
Yeah, really. It's
What do
called
they do?
property taxes. It's called sales taxes. You would certainly concede that billionaires spend more in sales tax, right?
Why can
than
my
me or
generation
you?
not afford to own a home? And that's in part because
it their job
all
to buy it for
property
you?
ownership. No, it's not their job. It's about It's about
Is it
returning.
the government's job to buy it for you?
No, it's not the government's job to buy people homes.
Then
but
why does
I
the
think
government
people
need their money?
Okay, because do you agree that the government's job is to redistribute wealth,
No.
and they
No.
but they already do that. They just
Strongly
make
disagree.
choices. But they make choices via taxes.
Let me ask you a
But what do
question. Why-
taxes do? No, Scott. What do taxes do? They redistribute wealth, right?
No, not redistribute it to individuals. It's supposed to be used.
The government
for the
makes
common
choices.
good. It's
So you
supposed
can
to be
make
used for
choices
the
in a different
common
way.
good.
That
You can
is
make
what
choices in a
this
different
proposal-
way.
But
that is
my-
what
and I
this
just want, I'm
my
sorry,
criticism-
just quickly.
my
is
criticism of the
trying to
California-
do would be to basically to tax people
Tax
who are
unrealized
who are extraordinarily wealthy. These are not. It is not a millionaire tax. These are people. We're talking billions of
Yes.
dollars. Okay.
Why pick $1 billion? Why in Washington did you pick $1 million? Why don't you pick 999,999? Why not pick 500,000? Why pick 5%? Why not 6? Why not 10? Why not 20? Why not 50? The thing is, it's all arbitrary just to attack people that we hate. And it is not for the public benefit. In California, the state auditor just found $70 billion in fraud going on in the state. The reason they need a wealth tax is to cover up the fraud. The hole in the budget in California is due to fraud. That's why they're trying to tax
No,
these
but you
people.
just
There is
admitted that it was
fraud in
about-
every
All right, so
state
yeah, they're
in
talking
the
about
United
Ukraine
States.
here and how Trump has been weird he's always been weird when it comes to the issue of Putin. Everybody knows that. It's another thing that these guys are going to defend him on 100%, but they're also willing to say that Putin is a monster, he's a dictator, blah, blah, blah. So it doesn't make any sense at all. But Emma does a great move here by pivoting to Gaza, even though I will admit, I mean, it's a mostly unrelated thing and does distract from the conversation. However, I think that was smart. I think that's what you should do on a program like this, specifically with the type of people that she's sitting across from. I don't think she should go there to pick a fight with Abby Phillips necessarily, even though she is throwing a wrench in Abby Phillips' program by saying that. It causes a distraction, it causes a big kerfuffle, but it also gets their goat, and it got them upset and redirected the conversation to what Emma wanted to be talking about. So that's the kind of tactic that you see from right-wingers all the time, and it's smart to go on a program like that as a leftist and do things like that. Throw haymakers that redirect the conversation so that, yeah, of course the right-wingers are going to say, how dare you not condemn the actions of blah, blah, blah. They're going to say that, but that's good. Get them on the back foot and get them whining. Like I said, it doesn't matter what they say. You have to assert your version of reality and even take a page out of their book and just say this is how the American people feel. This is what people want. This is what's gonna happen. That's the kind of thing that I think takes advantage of these programs to the maximum extent possible, because going and trying to have an honest exchange with people like that is just not going to work. Obviously Emma knows that, and these are high pressure things. I don't know that I would perform very well doing a debate like this because it's very dynamic. You don't know exactly what somebody's going to say, and so it's easy to get thrown off your game, or maybe something doesn't go quite the way you expected. They tell lawyers never ask a question that you don't already know the answer to. And also, it's good to say things that are a little unpredictable. The thing about executing the Sacklers in Town Square, or bringing up the issue of Gaza, the word genocide, getting them upset about the use of the word genocide. That's good, because you're presenting something unexpected to the audience. You're giving the audience good TV that also serves the point of moving the conversation to the left. And that's what the right-wingers on these shows are able to do. They know that they're going to just argue with liberals and it's just going to upset them and they're going to cry about it. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the people they're arguing with say in response. All that matters is they get out the idea that, America is going to be the police of the Western Hemisphere. Or if you're going to tax billionaires, you might as well tax everyone who makes $500,000 the same amount. They just have to say it. Their job is to just get that out on the air in this environment. You kind of have to ignore the people you're actually arguing with and just focus on the words that you're getting out there. And for the most part, I think Emma does a good job of that here. And, I think it's just something that we across the board on the left just have to be better at. Just asserting our worldview loudly, taking up space, not backing off of a single point ever, because all of these points that they have been able to normalize and make ground on, it's just purely a matter of repetition. They've just been doing it. They go out on Fox News, they go out now on CNN every day, and they say the same thing. Doesn't matter how mad people get or what portion of the audience agrees with them. All that matters is they keep making that appearance. And so if we're going to appear on shows like this, we got to do the same thing, but better.
Me too close to, too much to do. The mission is too crucial. Shout it out from the rooftops until I lose vocals. Who gon' take it there? 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 Electricity, 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 electricity.